one of the strategies of the HO 305 head with holder boulder, remember this is going on a boat, as we don't want to kill the bottom end because it's going to be pulling skiers out. At the same time, he does want some power on the mid or top, to be honest with you. He's trying to go out there and drag race on the water, or pretend that he is. So, knowing that right there, you got to try. It's our job as a cylinder head cutter to try to compromise and give him the best thing that we can. So, you know we just did the bowls. So what we're going to do here is we are going to go in and we're going to give him the tubes. But we're not going to open the rest of the port up. I did on the entrance here move it to 0.950. It was 0.880 or something like that. So I moved this wall 60 or 70 thousandths and pulled it back. Of course, you know, it had all that overhang here that was horrific. It made it somewhat resemble a cathedral port in a way. So I straightened that out, cut that out. This is the blue stripe Velcro entrance. Nothing majorly trick here. I did pour aluminum in the crossovers because anywhere where there's a Y configuration where the exhaust pulse goes to the other, I always try to fill that up if the customer wants to pay for it. But what we're going to do here is we're doing a 3 modification hit. This here, which I've already done, to 0.950. I'm going to put the tubes in it to straighten out that wall and then the bowls, and that's all that's done to the intake port on the head. Okay, and a lot of you are saying, well, wow, you went in there something as major as the tubes and then not doing all the raising the roof and moving the push rod wall over? No, because it will kill the velocity of the head as far as it lifting off the seat, off idle, pulling his skiers out. Remember, he's got to have low and mid-range torque, and this cubic inch of this motor isn't but 334 cubic inches. For practical purposes, this is a small engine. Although it does have the 400 crank stroke of 375, the bore diameter isn't but 3770. So we're going to do these 2 mods. By that, we're not going to increase the volume dramatically of the port, but we're going to make it some effective high-flowing air with a lot of fuel being properly mixed. That's what this is doing. All right, now, remember the point, guys, on this. Air does not like change. Air does not like change. By eliminating this straight wall, or that bulge, and putting the tube, we're letting the air not make a change. It ain't got to go over this big hump and go down to the bowl. Well, by straightening that out and tearing that wall, it's got a smooth transition. Air is not changing because air does not like change. Alright, now, I'm going to try to get you in here as close as I can. Basically, I ride the floor. I do not dig any downward. Wow, I better move the camera. I put so much power in it, I've got to lock it up that I'll actually move the head. I mean, that tells you how much power that I'm putting in that port when you see me moving the whole damn head. So I got it locked up on my bench now where it can't move to the left. Now I'm just hitting the area where the hump is. I'm trying to level it. Okay, now, after I get a couple of passes, then I'll go ahead and come on down. Or else I'll have a transition ridge. I don't want that. Alright, now, I'm going to dig on that a little bit. It's really hard to do with the camera, but let's take a look. All right, wow, you can see where I just cut into that majorly. I'd say right now I've got about 110 thousandths cut deep in the center where that humongous push rod bulge is. And you can see it. I can see it through the camera. Look, you can see the reflection of light once again. Right there. See that? That's a big hump, probably 1/4 of an inch from standing point. Right there it starts. Boom, the big hump, then back. So, I hit it right there in the center. I'm going to dig on it just a little bit more. Then I'm going to rotate the head over and we're going to hit the top and we're going to form a half clover leaf right there on it. So you can see where I'm tearing it up. Alright, okay. Now I've turned the head upside down because now we're going to hit that push rod bulge on the roof side, which as you can see where I've already laid this trench right here, you always want to be able to push down into the side of the grinder, never up. It's really hard to do like that unless you've got a hell of a forearm. But I'm going to be attacking this right here, same fashion. Now, one thing I wanted to point out, I don't know if I've mentioned, there is no water jacket from the flange here all the way to the bolt hole. So you ain't got to worry about nothing here busting through water. But as soon as you get to the other side of that bolt hole, I've seen heads such as the Chrysler and the Pontiac, or two I can think of, that man, as soon as it gets around that bolt hole, it's got a water jacket coming right in there. So when you're porting this, you have to cut like this. You don't ever want to dig in that way, because it wouldn't take much to bust into that water. Putting tubes in are tricky. I'd recommend you getting a couple of heads and practice them cracked if you're going to try to do this, because you got to learn to cut this way here and gnaw it down, and then once you start to see it begin to bust, then you don't blend hardly any on the other side, just lightly. Alright, so anyway, I'm going to show you real quick how I go in there and lay the trench on the roof part using the same fashion we used on the floor. The floor is actually harder because it's real easy to dig into the short turn. With the straight roof, it gives you a better angle of hit and it ain't as hard. Let's see what we got. Now, back down. Notice I'm pulling with it pointing this way. Remember what I told you, I'm not going in like that. That digs into it and can hit the other side of the bolt hole. I'm coming through this way. That sound that you're hearing every once in a while, it sounds horrific. That's the carbide blade skipping and jumping. You don't want to hear that sound. Well, you're going to hear it, but you want to keep it down as little, because when it's bouncing and chattering, it's tearing the teeth of the carbide up. Alright, now, I think that's going to give us a good point. Let me get you over here. And starting to fade. Alright, that's it. That is our double trench on the cloverleaf side. Now get a load of this. This is how I tell if I'm getting them close to being dug the same. I simply take my finger and run in there, and you'll be surprised at just your fingers being able to tell how much is cut out. Now, I do have measurement tools. I don't want to seem like, this is the way that we absolutely do things here. But, sorry about that. But the truth of the matter is, speed is everything, and I've just done it enough where I can stick my finger in there and I can tell right now, I can tell the top is actually dug more than the bottom. And it's that way because of the short turn. I have a better angle. So, but I do have a measurement tool I'll be glad to show you that you can stick in there. It's a simple radius gauge, like you would use on a crankshaft, and you can sit there and feel it until it fits in evenly, and that tells you what kind of a circumference you got on the trench. So we'll get into that more another time. But anyway, that right there shows you how and what it looks like. You see, right there's my cut depth, and there now I got to pull that whole center wall down, which we'll get into in a minute. I'm going to go ahead, cut the tops of the trenches on everything else, and then we'll go to the next step. Now, in straightening out the wall, we're using this big giant flame as a raw material removal, and basically I'm just going to tear the tallest part and try to somewhat level it, because we can't contour with this giant flame. The only thing we can do is just take the material out of it. Let's see what we got. Taking the first level of cast iron off, coming all the way back and flattening the casting line with this is the big thing. Now I'm going to try to see if I can do it like this, guys. I don't know if I can, but I'll give it a shot for you. I got my whole body around the tripod. Try to give you a little better light in there. Concentrating right there on the hump. And you're going to hit that valve guide. You're going to bump into it. But you're going to concentrate on the tallest part of the hump. And that's what we do with the flame. Okay, I'm going to go on in there and finish pulling it down, and then we're going to switch to an egg to do our blending. And I'm going to explain the reason why I went to this trouble to do it this way, instead of just letting the flame go ahead and pull it till I break through. Alright.